And we're back. Hi, I'm Christy Marchese. I'm the CEO of Kinema, and this is Have You Seen My Film, a Kinema podcast. We took a bit of an unintentional break because schedules were not aligning with our guests. We now have a bunch of new episodes queued up for you. And first up is Geoff Clark. Geoff is the CEO of Documentary Plus and the CEO of AcTVe Streaming and the co-founder of Free Live Sports. Basically, this means that he is like the expert in fast channels and distributing film and TV through ad-supported networks. And he was kind enough to entertain my very basic, very mid questions about what is FAST and what is AVOD. So in this episode, you're going to hear from Geoff on the ins and outs of FAST and AVOD streaming, how independent filmmakers or anyone can leverage these platforms, and what is the future of free ad-supported content. So let's jump in. All right, we are here with Geoff Clark, the CEO of Documentary Plus and AcTVe, and he is our expert in residence, let's say, of this podcast of FAST and AVOD and ad-supported streaming. So hi, Geoff. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I really enjoy talking to you. I'm so excited that you have Documentary Plus, which we can dive into later. But I already love what you've done with it and how you talk about it and the films that you picked recently and the branding and everything. So just kudos to you and thanks for keeping Documentary Plus going and thriving.
Yeah, we're very excited about it and obviously love a good documentary.
Likewise. Okay, so let's go to the very, very basics. What is FAST, F-A-S-T, and what is AVOD, A-V-O-D?
Well, there is a little commingling here with the rights, but FAST stands for free ad-supported streaming television. Probably the simplest example is if you have a Samsung TV, it has built-in Samsung TV Plus, which is roughly 500 or 600 channels, maybe 700 now. That is in essence like old school cable, but in the digital sense. So much like the television that we grew up with.
The channel flipping.
Yeah, the channel flipping. And, every roughly 10 minutes or so, you're going to see 2 minutes of commercials. But that is what is the FAST kind of environment. And you'll see that with basically every hardware company now. So like Vizio has Vizio Watch Free Plus. Samsung has Samsung TV Plus. LG has LG channels.
Yeah, so when you say hardware, you're talking about TVs like Samsung TV, LG TV, Vizio TV hardware?
Yeah, exactly. Or I guess in some cases, like Roku, if you have a Roku dongle or box, it's got Roku channels, which are, 700 channels, or Fire TV, the Fire TV stick, they've got Fire TV channels. But anywhere that you kind of are used to looking at streaming or apps, most of those companies now have their own platform. Even Hewlett-Packard, if you have a Hewlett-Packard laptop now, they now have HP TV Plus built into your laptop.
I mean, I thought you were saying my printer, like my HP printer was about to start streaming content to me.
just printing new frames.
One frame at a time.
Amazing.
You gotta buy more coloring.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
The ink is so expensive.
It's all expensive.
But yeah, and then on the AVOD side, AVOD rights in some cases overlap with FAST rights because they consider it ad-driven video on demand. But a lot of these platforms also have separate sections that are just the video on demand. And those are in essence the same. They have a pre-roll or some mid-rolls of commercials within the content. So it's just anything that's really kind of monetized via ads.
Got it. So if I'm on, let's say if I'm on Pluto or I'm on Tubi, or if I turn on my Samsung to my home screen on my Samsung TV and I kind of channel flip, I'm scrolling through the different lines of content. If I click into any one of those and I just enter, I guess, midstream of a movie, would that be an experience FAST?
Correct.
And then if I decide to play from the beginning or find a similar film, that would be your AVOD rights.
Correct. And now, to even complicate things further, some of these platforms have built in the technology that if you are midstream on a film or series, you can click and do like start from beginning. So there are platforms like Sling, and I think I saw like Hulu does this now, but there's a couple of those that have kind of that capability, which I think is really fun and probably smart because sometimes, if you're watching like a standalone true crime episode or a Dayline or something, you want to go back to the beginning and see what happened. But if you're 7 minutes into it, you're like, oh, I missed the murder part. Like, what are we solving? And nobody wants to miss the murder.
Nobody wants to miss the murder. You got to see the body at the beginning.
Totally. Which I think is great. And I think as this market matures and considering that some of the hardware owns these platforms, I think we'll see it become much more seamless and much more viewer friendly. Whereas, years ago, like when Pluto first started, they would just like take anything they could. But now the content standard has increased massively. And in the FAST ecosystem, you'll see a couple different types of channels. You'll see the general like Ion channel that has a bunch of everything and even like women's basketball rights and things like that. And then you'll see what we call single IP channels. So you'll see like the Baywatch channel and that's it. And it's just like Baywatch on a loop. That's it. Or the Dateline channel, or even like I saw on Peacock the other day, they have the SNL channel, which is genius. It's not even episodes. It's just individual sketches that they've just siloed out and put in a row.
Who's doing this? Who's doing this programming? They're not just saying like, here's seasons 1 through 50 and just playing 1 through 50. They're actually just pulling out scenes. How do these FAST channels get programmed?
So there's companies like mine, AcTVe.
So tell us about AcTVe. Tell us what AcTVe does, and specifically, like, what do you do? How do you spend your time?
So AcTVe is a streaming company. I call us, in essence, like a network in a box. But if you're a brand or a studio or even a celebrity, we can, in essence, act as your full suite of executives and employees, almost like a fractional employee service. And we will build and do everything soup to nuts for you to have a FAST channel.
So like if I'm David Hasselhoff and like Baywatch isn't enough, I want to also have a David Hasselhoff channel. I can come to you and be like,
totally
Hasselhoff all the time.
Yeah. And then you don't have to hassle the Hoff. You go right to me and you got it.
There we go.
Hey, got you. Dad jokes all day.
We're here for all the dad jokes.
But yeah, we in essence like do everything for you. So brands like, for example, we do the Popular Science channel. They're a well-known media brand, but they don't really necessarily have the experience or knowledge fast. So we can take their library, all of their branding. We go out and we get all the deals. We go out and license additional content if necessary, repackage some of their content if it's short form and do 30 or 60-minute compilations, and basically build a very clean broadcast level looking channel that becomes an additional source of revenue for them. I think the sweet spot today, because there's lots of channels now, are finding things that like when you're scrolling the guide in 1 second, you know what it is. So brands like Documentary Plus channel does really well because you know exactly what you're getting when you see that. Same with a Baywatch channel or Popular Science, or, a lot of these other brands like TED Talk has a TED channel. You see SNL, you know exactly what you're getting. That's a key discoverability feature that's built into the endemic sense of the channel, because I think a lot of it is people who are like sitting at home on their remotes and like, oh, I didn't know that exists. Like, oh, wow, there's a Baywatch channel. Oh, cool. Okay, I can watch that. Or America's Funniest Home Videos. Okay, I leave that on. Or, obviously like CBS has a CBS News channel, or CNN, or like all of them basically do now. With FAST, it's like you want to focus on a niche and something that's clearly identifiable.
Yeah, I've been watching some of the data on how FAST channels have been growing. Yes, we have a lot of economic issues here in America. And so when we look at how many streaming platforms we want to pay for, do I want to pay for 8 different streaming platforms that are much higher than my cable bill used to be for those of us that used to have a cable bill? There was a generation that did not experience the cable bill. And so the opportunity that FAST presents is that it is free. You have to, quote unquote, deal with ads, but like we grew up with those ads. But it's interesting, the way you just framed it made me think, scrolling through FAST is the combination of security and serendipity. I'm kind of discovering something. I'm not having to be forced to choose something. I get something presented to me. That's the serendipity piece, but also it's familiar. So I'm like, oh, I know what America's Funniest Home Videos are, or at least you and I do, not the younger generation. You're helping me understand why many people are choosing to watch on FAST.
Yeah. And for now, I mean, other than Tubi, the FAST audience really kind of skews a little bit older. Pluto executives the other day, and they were telling me the Gunsmoke channel, which is just episodes of Gunsmoke, which is way above my age grade and probably yours as well, I imagine. But apparently there's a group of people that love Gunsmoke and want to watch it all day, and it's totally free. But I think that's also why like the news channels work great. If you don't want to subscribe to Spectrum and have to get a cable box or whatever, but you still want your daily news or even local news, there's like hundreds of those channels available for free. And it's already built into your TV. So it makes it really easy, once you kind of find the guide and whatever, which they prioritize in the operating systems, of course. And there really is, I hate to say, a channel for everything, but there is pretty much a channel. I was looking at the report that Luminate put out the other day, and they said there's 71 true crime channels. So if you love true crime, you have 71 options of channels.
And are those 71 channels all within like Samsung, all within Roku, all within, or like, are they 71 that are spread out across the different hardwares?
Yeah, so they're spread out across, but you'll see, like the big ones you'll see on most of them. And like A&E has a couple true crime-ish channels that are carved out from the A&E library, the legacy library, that are really good. So you'll see a handful of them on every platform, and then you'll see a couple outliers that are on certain platforms here and there. But there's no shortage. And same with like sports. There's 200 sports channels of every sport you can imagine. There's a platform that I'm part of called Free Life Sports, and there's we have 135 channels, everything from equestrian channels to NASCAR and Red Bull TV and everything in between.
Do you have skidjorking? I'm still waiting for skidjorking to get popular.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's a great new sport. It's where cowboys drag snowboarders and skiers around a rodeo in the snow. Yeah.
Well, we do have Cowboy Plus, which maybe there could be a block for that.
There could be a block for skidjorking. Okay, great.
We could maybe make that happen. Right.
So this is, FAST has been around for a while, right? I mean, it was originally, form of cable television, but it's popping right now for independent filmmakers because the SVOD options have been kind of pulling back. There are a lot of the mergers happening. There's less buyers in the market. And we also, I think we understand if you're going on a subscription platform, you need to be acquired. If you're doing transactional VOD, like on Apple or Amazon, you need to go through an aggregator. You can work with platforms like ours to go direct audience. But like, how does this help independent filmmakers? Where does FAST come into play? And I have a lot of questions here. How, as an independent filmmaker, should I be thinking about AVOD and FAST? When should I be thinking about it? When does it fit into a wing strategy? And then how do I even access those 71 true crime channels or get on a Samsung? Where do I even start as an indie filmmaker?
That is a very good question. So I think there's no one size fits all answer, but I think depending on the genre of your film, there's likely a FAST channel that fits it. Whether it's a surf film or a true crime film or a scripted movie or an action movie, like even like 50 Cent has an action channel that is run by Lionsgate. So you could go to Lionsgate and say, hey, I've got this action movie that seems great for you guys. Would you want to license it for the channel? And then a lot of deals that we do for our channels, we do get through traditional distributors, whether it's All3Media or Fremantle or Oscilloscope or whoever. Anywhere in between, Shout Factory, or I guess Radial or whatever. And then I think there's the cool indie film producer way, which is going on a LinkedIn or however and finding someone like me who runs a documentary channel and just saying, hey, I see you run a documentary channel. Here's a quick, tease on what my movie is. Do you think it would fit for you? And we find quite a few movies that way, actually, that just go direct from filmmaker because it's very obvious what we're looking for and what they have, because it's very straightforward. Like, is it a documentary? Is it likely like 30 minutes or more? One thing you have to remember with FAST is that because it's ad driven, the way you make money is through the ad breaks. So you really need to be 30 minutes or more to really drive any revenue, because even in a 30-minute episode, you're only going to get 2 ad breaks.
So how do I get paid out then? Do I only get paid during the ad breaks in my film? If my film is 30 minutes or if my film is 3 hours?
Yeah. So it's based off consumption. So it's very much like, I guess, YouTube, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But a more discoverable kind of baked in version of that. And not every FAST channel is, created equally, I guess you could say. There's some that are incredibly popular and some that are mid-level and some, that have been around as legacy channels and have great placement. It's very much like the rebirth of cable. So you've got your ABCs and CBSs and NBCs of the world. And then you've got, the Cartoon Network that came much later. But you still know if you want cartoons, you can go to the Cartoon Network. And it's not going to be like CBS money, but people are still going to see it and you're still going to make money and all of that. And I guess on the windowing portion, I would say that the proper windowing of rights, which I'm sure you deal with a ton, still applies to this. AVOD or FAST, I think, fits towards the end of that life cycle. It's slowly becoming much more prevalent in the beginning area of the life cycle because audience is shifting. And I'm sure you hear it from filmmakers all the time being like, whoa, I made a ton of money off Tubi. I maybe made more money off Tubi than I made off of TVOD or my other pay streaming deal. And that's all because of the consumption and the priority placement. And, Tubi's doing 90 million monthly active users or so. So even being a small piece and getting good placement, a lot of people are going to watch that and a lot of ads are going to serve. So you'll make money, especially if it's a 90-minute, film. So I think there's like a lot of different pieces to that equation. But, if you can do theatrical and TVOD and then do an SVOD and then, a year later, 6 months later, go to AVOD and whatever, I think that's still the proper windowing strategy. But every piece of content is different and everyone has different goals. And like, even with like Documentary Plus, sometimes I talk to filmmakers and they're like, we don't even care about the money. We just want to know people can see the movie, as many people as possible, because like that was the goal of it. Wasn't to get rich. It was never to get rich. It was because of a social action cause or something that they, were emotional about and was really important to them. But yeah, I would say on a general sense, though, you probably want to follow the traditional windowing rules.
And again, every film is different. Ami on our team just wrote a great piece on the film Lily on our Substack about like when you window something out, sometimes there's trade-offs. You spend more time in a great way. They spent the most of their resources on theatrical and it paid off for them, but it was hard to reactivate those for other windows. So it did help with like the kind of waterfall down from there, but they chose to focus on certain windows. So it makes sense. So if you were to say, if someone does their kind of windowing strategy and they're going to go, they're ready for like FAST and AVOD, it's kind of the first step to look at, okay, what is unique about my film and find those unique channels first. If it's a documentary on Baywatch, maybe they go to the Baywatch channel first because it's so specific.
Totally. Yeah. And also you can be on multiple channels at the same time.
That's a good point.
So I think you go out and get all those deals, especially in the AVOD window, and much like some of the aggregators, how they kind of are like, okay, I'm going to get you on Pluto and Tubi and, everything else all at the same time. I think that's okay. The data kind of shows that it doesn't cannibalize, because I think there's some people that like only watch Tubi and some people that are like only going to watch Doc Plus on Samsung TV Plus and maybe that and a couple other things, but that's it. They're never going to watch Pluto. They're never going to watch Vizio because they don't even have a Vizio TV. So they can't even get Vizio Watch Free Plus or Samsung because they don't have a Samsung TV. They have an LG. So I think like trying to spread your wings far and wide, I think is a very smart strategy when you're in the AVOD phase. But I think a lot of the channel operators and buyers understand that. And we know that like Doc Plus has a hardcore audience that probably isn't going to watch the Baywatch channel. So you can go ahead and license to them too if you want. Totally fine with us.
Yes, right. There's not a lot of competition there. You're not losing Doc Plus like viewers to the Baywatch channel regularly. LG and Samsung are not competing as subscription platforms because you bought your TV. You're going to have that TV for a while. So you're not going to be switching TVs back and forth. That makes sense.
For sure.
You're finding that you don't have to do as many exclusive deals on these channels.
We do mostly non-exclusive. And with like Doc Plus specifically, because it's an SVOD and an AVOD and a FAST channel, we actually use the FAST channel as a nice top funnel to get people in to subscribe, or much like you alluded to earlier, sometimes they tune in and like half the movie's done already and they can't do the playback. So they've then kind of have to go to Doc Plus to watch the full movie. And that's a nice like top funnel for awareness and to get people in. And then it doesn't really cannibalize the SVOD or the TVOD side of things because you can't like rewind the TV on every platform in essence.
I hadn't thought about that. That makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, if you come in, you jump in, you're like, I really want to rewatch this from the beginning, or I missed the murder scene at the beginning. I got to go back. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And the great thing about FAST, because it's considered a network, is, and a lot of filmmakers that we've dealt with like this, is that it also opens up awards possibilities. So it allows us to submit for the Emmys because we're an actual streaming network. So there's some fun things like that you can do in the FAST ecosystem that don't necessarily work the same in a VOD or TVOD kind of element.
So then technically, like let's use the Emmys, for example, because I'm not actually very informed on the award stuff. So would you choose the films to submit, or could the filmmakers submit themselves and like you are the distributor, or the FAST channel is their listed distributor?
We've done both ways.
Ah, great. So like if someone's self-distributing, they get themselves on those, Popular Science. I gotta stop using Baywatch, but stuck in my head. Dating ourselves here. If there was, let's say, a Toys R Us themed channel. We were joking because Jeff does like Jeffrey the giraffe in Toys R Us, which apparently not a lot of people know about, but you should know Jeffrey the giraffe from Toys R Us. Anyway, so let's say there's a Toys R Us themed channel. I could then submit my film for an Emmy and then ask Toys R Us to kind of back me up or whatever as the distributor, technically.
Yeah. And we normally like to do it hand in hand so we can do it all properly and make sure that, we can push it and things like that. But yeah, it's a nice tool to have.
And then to get into some of the mechanics of the finances, so like there probably isn't a hard and fast rule, but I mean, with all these different TV options, with 700 channels on each of these options, I don't even know how many Roku or Tubi or Pluto have. Like, are there some standards? Meaning, like, are MGs a standard? It sounds like non-exclusives are pretty standard, meaning like exclusives are not standard. So are MG standard? Is everything rev share? Is it mostly rev share? And then how often do filmmakers get paid? Is it quarterly, monthly? And is that something that your company provides? Or how does that work?
All great questions. So I would say the majority of them are rev shares because usually it's not first window content, but that's not a hard and fast rule. Some projects get MGs, some do get straight license fees. It all depends on the channel and the channel owners and kind of their business model. And then, yes, majority of the payments are done on a quarterly because the platforms report quarterly. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say impossible, but mostly not likely for the channel owners to be able to even report monthly because they don't get it from Fubo or whoever yet. So they've got to wait to get that in before they can report. But yes, we do that. We report for all the movies and everything that we license for channels. We either lump it in with like Doc Plus, for example, that is much more broad and has an SVOD and whatever, it gets lumped into their quarterly report. But in some cases, for like just the standalone channels, we just send reports that are just for that piece of content on that channel.
Got it. Because I mean, to me, it seems so ridiculously complicated. Like having, we do transactional VOD. That seems very simple to me. This is, you have to work with all the different hardwares. Yeah, you have all these different channels, but then also you have to sell ads. You have to program what goes, and it's nonstop. Time keeps going on. So you're programming for like, I don't know, how far out are you programming? Yeah, 24 hours a day. How far out do you program? And who sells the commercial spots?
That's also not a one-size-fits-all answer. Some of the platforms require that they actually fill the ads. And in some cases, that's much better because you can imagine companies like Samsung have huge teams and they've been, they're a $1 trillion company. They're very competent. They do things well. So you want to trust them, and they have such giant scale that they can actually do better deals. It's much like a Comcast or Spectrum could. And then there's some platforms that you have to sell the ads. And so then you have to either partner with a third-party programmatic company or find a way to fill the ads yourself and go get a seat at the trade desk or something like that. But it is very much a complicated business with a lot of moving parts that, again, makes me cry every day. I'm just kidding.
Well, this is why I think it's so incredible what you've done, because the fact that like you found a way to systematize it, you have many successful channels. It is very much needed right now for someone to kind of be the train conductor for all these different parts.
I think these are the questions that I think every filmmaker, every content owner has if you're not in the business. It is a mix of both knowing distribution and content and understanding tech and then understanding kind of how like, I hate to say the TV manufacturing, but TV manufacturing meets like new school cable stuff. I will say there's a lot of people in the FAST industry where I don't want to say cable holdovers, but people who are very experienced in broadcast and cable and then kind of transitioned with the new technology over. I think it's a lot of those people, and then a lot of people who maybe accidentally fell into it like I did. I used to be part of a media brand called Futurism, and we were one of the first ever FAST channels, just purely accidentally. And through that process, I just learned, like this could be a thing. And then after we sold Futurism, I was sitting around in Brooklyn and I was like, maybe this should be a thing. And that's when I started to grow my business. And actually I went back to all the indie distributors I used to distribute my films through, whether that was The Orchard or 1091 or Gunpowder and Sky, which was Film Buff at the time, or Shout Factory or whoever, because I knew they had libraries that would be great for FAST. And then I would help them like carve up those libraries into very distinct channels, whether it's like a surf channel or an alien channel or a, black content channel or whatever that niche was that I knew that they had a depth of library. That's what we would go and spin up. That was in the early days. You could walk into Pluto and they would take any channel. That was pre-Paramount, pre all of that. They just are like, even Samsung at the time, I would go in and they would take 3 or 4 channels at a time. And it was like, we'd high five each other and everything would be great. And then whatever, there's like no questions. And, now it's like, you've got to have a very polished deck. You've got to have a deep library of content. They want to know you're going to do real marketing. It's very much become cable level standards, which I think is good for viewers because you want to watch good stuff, and good for advertisers because they don't want to advertise against crap. They want to advertise against great stuff, and they want to know who their audience is. And so I think it's much more easier to define who that audience is because you kind of know what type of person's going to want a 50 Cent action channel versus a news channel or, a PureFlix channel or any of those. You can kind of pick and choose who those audiences are going to be and really like super serve them. I think that's the one big benefit is you can super serve a customer because you know who's going to watch a popular science channel to some degree.
That makes complete sense, especially if you're, again, selling advertising. You're like, all right, this is my PureFlix audience versus my news audience versus my Baywatch audience. Like it's also much easier to your point to serve your customers. This has been really, really helpful. Thank you for explaining so much of this.
My knowledge is finally useful for something.
So much useful knowledge. Is there anything we didn't cover that you think is worth saying about FAST and AVOD right now?
Well, I would say is like, as the kind of cable linear business keeps transitioning, and I don't want to say starts going away more, but as those cord cutters continue, it appears as if the migration of that audience is going into FAST. And much kind of what you alluded to early on, a lot of people don't want to have 20 subscriptions. Statistically, it shows that people are willing to do 3 to 4 kind of like main subscriptions and up to 1.7 niche subscriptions, whether that's a Crunchyroll or a Doc Plus that's only docs or Shudder or something that is like very specific, one thing that is also inexpensive, probably like $3 to $5. And I think that opens up a huge opportunity for FAST because it's free, it's built in, it's easy to find. If you don't like it today, who cares? You could go back tomorrow and there's 600 other channels to choose from. And I think because a lot of those free platforms too have really upped their game, like Tubi had the Super Bowl on for free. But you didn't have to have ABC or NBC or whatever it was
have
on.
A cable package.
You didn't have to have that anymore. You didn't have to pay Sling. You didn't have to whatever. And I think as that continues, I think it will be a big boost to those free to watch platforms. And that's the way it's definitely going. And then, hey, if you want to spend your money because Netflix is great and you want to see someone climb a skyscraper and that's the only place you can do it, or there's some roast or something and that's the only place, great. You'll do that for 3 of them or maybe 4, but nobody wants to spend another $200 a month on cable. They would just go back to cable.
Right.
It's interesting to see this evolution, and every year it evolves further and further, and just much, much less people are watching traditional cable. And that's why A&E has 30 channels. They have cut up their entire library into every niche you can imagine that makes sense. From like transactional channel, like Pawn Stars and things like that, to, a couple true crime channels that they've got all of that legacy content.
They have decades of content. Wow.
And amazing content they've spent a lot of money on. So it really stands out in the FAST ecosystem. Just like Gunsmoke, like people still watching Gunsmoke apparently. It's in black and white. How long ago was that produced? And they're still milking money out of it.
In a sense, there's some stuff that if it's good enough quality and it's good human stories that we can connect with, like it can be timeless.
And eventually there will be a Friends FAST channel when people like Netflix no longer want to buy those exclusive rights out. It'll eventually get there. I don't know how long. And same with Seinfeld. And I saw Sony launched a Breaking Bad channel that's only in international territories. So it's like, even that has its own channel, not in the US because the US rights are taken by Netflix. It's definitely an opportunity for content owners for the future, especially ones that own good libraries.
Well, I know it's only 6 episodes, but you can sign me up for a heated rivalry. Fast channel, anytime.
Someone might do that. But in the meantime, Logo's got a channel, I think. Revery's got a channel.
Everybody's got a channel.
If you want to scratch that itch, there's a channel for it.
On that note, if there's a, whatever you said, an itch to scratch, there's a channel for it. So last minute advice to filmmakers. If you're going to go fast, what should you do?
I think you should either reach out directly to a channel that seems perfect for your content, or if you have your content with an aggregator already, to ask them and say, hey, I've got a documentary and I saw there's Documentary Plus and it's a science documentary in popular science. Could you maybe reach out to them and see if they would want to put it on there? You can go through and turn on your Samsung TV or Vizio and you can spend 30 minutes and scroll through the whole guide. And I bet you will see 5 to 10 of those types of channels that it might work for. I love it when aggregators reach out and say, hey, I've got 10 documentaries. Would you consider them for Doc Plus? Or I've got this cool science series that's been in a couple places, but it's didn't get the air it needed to get. Like, would you consider licensing this? And what do the deals look like? And when I go to the conferences, I talk to people all day long that have these libraries that are hoping to do that exact thing because everybody wants to make money off their content. So yeah, I think there's a couple different routes, and don't underestimate LinkedIn. I think if you can reach out to people on LinkedIn and it makes sense, like I get a ton of messages and we've put a ton of stuff on Doc Plus from LinkedIn and even Popular Science and a bunch of other channels.
I couldn't agree more. I think you and I actually might have connected on LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn gets a mention on this podcast every episode. Like, I'm gonna need them to sponsor it at some point.
They should be sponsoring this.
They should be sponsoring this.
Yes.
It's true. Everyone gives LinkedIn because it works. It actually does work. It's a trusted source.
It works.
Jeff, thank you so much. Geoff Clark, founder and CEO of AcTVe and CEO of Documentary Plus. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom.
Yeah, thank you. This was so fun. Thanks, Christy.
And that's our episode. Thank you to our special guest, our producer and editor, Ron Pissarro, and you, the filmmakers, creators, marketers, and distributors that are dedicated to connecting audiences with great films.